The word cannibal, or the act of eating humans, traces back to Christopher Columbus, who discovered the New World, the North American continent. Believing the New World he arrived in was India, located in Asia, he mistook the indigenous people of this region as descendants of the Mongol Empire's king, Khan, and thus referred to them as the Caribs. Columbus heard rumors from a neighboring tribe that the Caribs ate humans, and as this rumor spread throughout Europe, the word cannibal became associated with a race of people who practiced human consumption. Of course, this rumor was later proven to be false. However, were there really no groups in the history of human evolution that could be classified as cannibalistic? And if there really were none, what would be the reason behind that? Today, we will be discussing cannibalism and the practice of consuming human flesh. In recent times, the term cannibalism may not be particularly familiar to many. However, in reality, the act of consuming human flesh has revealed itself frequently throughout history. Dr. Silvia Bello of the Natural History Museum in London discovered human remains from 14,700 years ago in the Cheddar Gorge in southwestern England. Upon examining the fossilized skulls and teeth found among the bone fragments, she argued that the marks on the teeth and the smoothed portions of the skull's fossils appeared to have been processed in a manner resembling the shaping of vessels, suggesting the occurrence of cannibalistic practices during that time. While one may think that cannibalism only took place in the distant past, some cases surfaced as recently as the 1150s. Fossilized human feces were discovered at an Indian archaeological site in the southwestern part of Colorado, USA. Dr. Richard Marlar detected the protein myoglobin found in human muscles from these fossilized feces and published a paper in Nature in 2000 titled Biological Evidence of Cannibalism. Also, in 2013, evidence of cannibalism occurring in the early 17th century was discovered in Jamestown, a settlement established by Europeans in America. Douglas Ousley, an anthropologist, found the fossilized skull of a 14-year-old girl who had been murdered at the site of Jamestown, and had this to say: "This evidence indicates that people carved and consumed meat for food, opened holes in bones, and extracted and consumed brains." According to the records that document the situation in Jamestown in 1609, at that time, the village's food supply had completely run out. The settlers were eating dogs, cats, rats, snakes, and even tearing and eating leather from shoes. Still, those who couldn't bear their hunger reportedly ate corpses dug out indiscriminately from both English and Indian graves. Cannibalistic practices also occurred in the 20th century. In 1972, Uruguay Air Force Flight 751 crashed in the Andes Mountains. The survivors of the crash were forced to consume the deceased bodies of their companions in order to stay alive. This incident became one of the well-known episodes of cannibalism. So, based on the information discussed so far, can we definitely confirm the existence of cannibalistic cultures throughout history of human evolution? Professor Lee Sang-hee, an anthropologist, states that cannibalistic practices often arise in the context of funerary rituals, extreme circumstances, or social and cultural reasons. However, he asserts that there is no evidence of cannibalistic groups, known as cannibalistic cultures, existing as a regular part of human dietary practices throughout human evolutionary history. This is because, from the perspective of evolutionary history, cannibalism is an irrational, desperate behavior for the basest level of human survival. The first reason why it's an irrational act for survival is simple. Hunting your own kind, who are physically and intellectually similar to you, is many times more difficult than hunting animals like rabbits or deer. The energy used to hunt your own kind is far better spent hunting different animals. Therefore, in the world of animals other than humans, cannibalism is rare unless specific circumstances such as mating, reproduction, or extreme stress occur. The second reason comes from a similar vein. Consuming human flesh is not very beneficial from a nutritional standpoint. In 2017, Dr. James Cole, an archaeologist from the University of Brighton in the UK, conducted a rather peculiar study analyzing human flesh from a nutritional standpoint. The title of his paper is quite unique as well, assessing the calorific significance of episodes of human cannibalism in the Paleolithic. In his paper, he used a 55-kilogram male as a base and stated that the thigh yields 13,350 calories, the upper arm 7,450 calories, the forearm 1,660 calories, the heart 650 calories, the liver 2,570 calories, both kidneys 380 calories, the lungs 1,600 calories, the large and small intestines 1,260 calories, the skin 10,280 calories, and the brain and spinal cord 2,700 calories. He revealed that the total calories from one human body can reach 120,000 to 140,000 calories. You might think, wow, this is definitely on par with a supersized high-calorie hamburger. However, Dr. Cole pointed out that the calories from one human body would only sustain around 25 men for just half a day at most. In contrast, if they could just kill one mammoth, whose muscles alone would provide up to 3.6 million calories, the same group could survive for 2 months. In essence, Dr. Cole argued against the likelihood that any groups existed throughout human evolutionary history that regularly practiced cannibalism purely for nutritional reasons. He suggested that most evidence of cannibalism found in fossils was due to social or cultural practices, such as religious rites, rituals, or funerals. Lastly, the biggest drawback that cannibalism brings is disease. Viruses, bacteria, parasites, and more can be transmitted very easily among the same species. For instance, in order for a virus present in a bat's body to infect humans, there needs to be a certain level of genetic mutation within the virus. However, when it comes to human-to-human transmission, viruses can infect immediately without requiring significant mutations. In other words, the act of eating one's own kind inevitably leads to infection. There is an interesting study related to this. Dr. Milland from India had participants in an experiment smell the feces of 13 different mammals, including humans, pigs, and cows, and then analyzed which fecal smell they found most repulsive. Perhaps unsurprisingly, humans were found to be the most repulsed by the smell of human feces. The feces that caused the second most intense aversions were from pigs, which share similar parasites with humans. Feces from animals like cows, which have fewer parasites that can infect humans, did not cause as much aversion. In response to this, evolutionary biologists explain that feces from the same species contain the most parasites that can infect oneself. Therefore, humans instinctively feel the most disgust toward the smell of feces from their own species, helping to avoid disease transmission. Indeed, consuming the flesh of the same species, such as the brain and muscles, increases the risk of disease transmission. As a result, it becomes difficult for a group of cannibals who engage in ritualistic or regular cannibalistic practices to survive in nature. And indeed, there is a notable case where such cannibalistic practices led to the spread of a disease. This is the famous case of the Kuru disease, which shocked many people in the 1950s. In Papua New Guinea, the Fore tribe, an indigenous group, experienced the widespread outbreak of a mysterious disease in the 1950s. The people affected by this disease experienced severe muscle weakness throughout their bodies, making it difficult for them to stand properly. They were also unable to eat anything and experienced severe tremors throughout their bodies. Eventually, they succumbed to pneumonia and died. At the time, the locals named the disease Kuru, which means trembling in their language. This disease predominantly affected women. Many medical researchers at the time made efforts to understand the cause of this illness, but were unable to pinpoint it. However, in 1957, Daniel Gajdusek, an American pediatrician, revealed that this disease was caused by cannibalism. At that time, the Four tribe practiced a form of cannibalism where, upon a person's death, their hands and feet were severed and the flesh was consumed by men, while the brain and organs were primarily consumed by women. They conducted peculiar funeral rituals. Women who were more involved in caring for and consuming the brains of the deceased within the tribe had a higher incidence of Kuru disease, as it was believed to be caused by ritual brain consumption. Prions, which are devoid of DNA or RNA and exist solely as proteins, act as agents that destroy cells in the brain. They are terrifying substances that gradually erode the brain, transforming surrounding normal proteins into pathogenic forms. Kuru disease serves as a prominent example of how cannibalistic practices can increase the risk of disease transmission. If there were groups that practiced cannibalism as a regular part of their culture, they would have likely faced extinction due to the prevalence of diseases associated with such practices. While it is certainly valid to address the question of why humans eating humans is considered wrong from ethical, societal, or cultural perspectives, exploring it from a scientific standpoint can provide a fresh and unique perspective. And this has been Science Dream. Thank you for watching.